back just to let Miss Coney hug you. I think she's hugged everybody up here, including the speaker. And I want you to know that it's my privilege to be here tonight. I celebrate with you. This is a wonderful evening. Your parents are smiling because they've been suffering from maltuition, and they get a little break for that a while. And the second reason, many of you have graduated cum laude, and most of them graduated thank you laude, so they're really excited about being here. What you need to know about Dr. Whitten is that he came to you as your headmaster from Arkansas. What you may not know is that 25 years ago, when he was there was a high school graduate who came back for the 25th high school class reunion. I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll come back and do your high school class reunion. You will thank God that he answered prayer, and you'll thank God that he didn't answer some of those prayers. But 25 years when you all get back together, well, they did that for Dr. Chitwood, and a student came to him and said, Dr. Chitwood, I just want to thank you and take a second here to tell you, just thank you for that inspirational advice that you gave me at the commencement 25 years ago. And he said, young man, tell me your name again. And he said, no, the words just really just motivated me and changed my life. And he said, well, young man, can you just tell me what was it that I said 25 years ago that just really motivated you? He said, well, Dr. Chitwood, I've tried to live my life by these words, and I'll never forget it. You shook my hand and you said, keep moving. Now, I want you to know, graduates, that's exactly what we're going to be doing in just a few moments. We're going to tell you just to keep moving. Now, Beth Coney said to me that I did not have long, and all God's people said, amen, right? And so, because I'm her pastor, and she knows that people and I don't have a tendency to stop listening when I'm still speaking, and so she just said, here's your time. And so let me tell you what I did. I took my speech, I gave it to my wife, and I said, hey, why don't you just look at my speech and kind of take out everything that you don't think is really relevant and kind of boring and really doesn't apply. And so, in conclusion, this is not a conclusion. This is a resolution. This is a commencement. This is not a beginning. This is not the ending for you. This is a beginning. And I thought to myself today, what would we want to say to graduates that are getting ready to launch out into the unknown future in many, many ways? And I thought, why don't we just let somebody who's been there, done that, and bought the shirt say it? Because he did say something in conclusion. His name was Solomon. Solomon wrote 3 books in the Word of God. Solomon is the person that wrote Proverbs when he was young and when he was in love. And it was a book filled with romance, a book filled with riches. He wrote Song of Solomon when he was in love. He wrote Proverbs in his growing age. And then as he got older, he wrote the book of Ecclesiastes. He wrote a book when he was in love and filled with romance. He wrote a book filled with riches, but he wrote another book, Ecclesiastes, in his older age, and he says at the very end of the chapter, in conclusion, it's not filled with romance, it is not filled with riches, it's a book that's filled with regrets. There was a man by the name of William Borden. If you've heard of Borden's ice cream, he came from that family. He was a graduate of Yale University. He was a missionary to China. He died at a very young age, and they found a note in his Bible, and it actually had 6 words, 3 phrases, with some dates by it. And it said, no reserve, no retreat, no regret. And when they looked at those words, they noticed that the date was placed by no reserve shortly after he renounced his fortune in favor of being a missionary. They found another date, and it said no retreat. It was when his dad said to him, you will never again work for this company. But before he died in Egypt, they found another date, and they found another phrase, and it said this, no regrets. Solomon is saying, if you would like to have a life that has no reserves, no retreat, and no regrets to it, then adhere to these words right here. This is the 12th chapter of the book of Ecclesiastes. It has one of my favorite phrases in it. Of course, when I was in school, when it said, of making many books, there's no end, and much study is wearisome to the flesh. You might want to just memorize that before you go to college. But then he said this. Let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments. For this is man's all, for God will bring every work into judgment, including every secret thing, whether it's good or whether it's evil. Solomon is a man in his later years of life looked back and said, I've got some regrets. And he said, let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. And the conclusion of the whole matter, he says, is life, if you're not careful, can be vain. And he says it twice. Vanity of vanity, says the preacher. It means empty. It means futile. It's a word picture of a bubble that you just pop, and it pops and it's gone. And Solomon's a man that said, you know, I was young once and I thought that life could be found in wealth, but there's no life in wealth. I thought maybe I could find it in wisdom, and I studied botany and zoology and geology and astronomy and history, and I discovered that science can tell us how, but it can never tell us why. I found no life in wisdom, and I found no life in wealth. Solomon was a man who had 300 wives and 700 concubines. You say, Pastor, I thought you said he had wisdom. Well, I did. And what Solomon is saying is, I have been there and I've done that. I bought the shirt. I tried to find my life in wealth and wine and women and in song. And I want to speak to you, he said, just for a few moments. And the few moments that he says is simply this. I have one thing to say to you. If you want to live a life that you can say, there's no reserve. There's absolutely no retreat in my life, and when I live it to the fullest, and I stand before God on Judgment Day, I can say, there's absolutely no regrets. That I can say this, fear God and keep his commandments. And what he's saying is simply this. In fact, I think he says a couple things. Number one, I think what he's trying to say is, go through life and enjoy life, don't just endure it. He starts out that chapter by saying, remember now your Creator in the days of your youth. And what Solomon is saying is fear God. That's an Old Testament way of saying believe in the Lord Jesus Christ and be saved. What Solomon's saying is, you know what? Why don't you remember now your Creator in the days of your youth, because these are carefree days, really. They're not necessarily crucial days, not necessarily critical days. You're going to have those days. You're going to get older. And I want to tell you, I know you probably know this, but you need to hear it again, that we're blessed to live in a nation where education is a privilege, where education is a priority. And you can say, you know, I'm going to go through life and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to just endure it, because we are blessed. How blessed? Well, if you woke up this morning with more health than illness, you're more blessed than 1 million people who survived this week. If you've never experienced the danger of the battle, the loneliness of imprisonment, the agony of torture, or the pains of starvation, you're already ahead of 500 million people in the world. If you can attend a church meeting without fear of harassment and arrest and torture and death, you're more blessed than 3 billion people in the world. If you have a fit of food in your refrigerator and clothes on your back, if you have a roof over your head and a place to sleep, you're richer than 75% of the world. If you have money in the bank or in your wallet or spare change in a dish somewhere, you're among the top 8% of the world's most wealthy people. And if your parents are still alive and married, you're very rare. Even in this country or Canada. And if you can read, you're more blessed than over 2 billion people in the world that cannot read at all. And so if you can read, thank a teacher. And if you can read it in English, thank a soldier. Because somebody paid the price for you. And what Solomon is saying is that you're young and things are changing and things are getting different. And you know, I looked and did some study this week about the year that you were born. And I thought to myself, you know, it is changing. And I would say that what Solomon is saying when he's saying, remember now the Creator of the days of your youth, is enjoy life. Don't just endure it. But I think he'd say the second thing, and that's this. Solomon would say to you today, you want a life with no regret, no retreat, no reserve? Give him the energy of your youth. Don't wait for the emptiness of old age. Give it to him while you're young. Make your life count. You were born in 92, 93, many of you in 1993. Can I tell you something? When you were born, gas was $1.16 a gallon. Your parents' home, where the average cost was $113,000. The interest rate was 6% and rent was $532 a month. The average income was $31,000. And if you wanted to go to Harvard when you were born, you would have paid $23,514 to get in. And you can compare that to about $60,000 today. The cost of a movie was $4.14, and a loaf of bread cost $1.57. When you were born, the Beanie Babies just came out. Martin Luther King's holiday was observed in all 50 states for the very first time in 1993. The Florida Marlins introduced Billy, the mascot. I know you want to know that. George Steinbrenner was reinstated as owner of the New York Yankees. Disney's new NHL hockey expansion team, the Mighty Ducks, was born. And Bill Clinton was inaugurated as the 42nd president. And I know this is trivia, you're going to know, but Tiffany Trump and Jennifer Stone were born this year. Tiffany Trump was born to Donald Trump and Marla Maples on October 13th, and Jennifer Stone February 12th. And Rudy Giuliani was elected mayor, the 107th mayor of New York. And Elton John sued Sunday Mayor for a false report on his diet and got $518 million. That was 18 years ago, and things have changed. And I know you think, as you're getting older, that you look back at your parents and you say, you know, I wonder about my parents, I really do. And you know what? They kind of wonder about you. They think one day you kind of went to bed normal, you woke up weird. But Bill Gates was speaking to a class just like this, and he said, let me give you some rules of life, because maybe we haven't learned these rules. Number one, life is not fair. Get used to it. Number two, the world don't care about your self-esteem. The world will expect you to accomplish something before you feel good about yourself. Rule number three, you're not going to make $60,000 out of high school, and you're not going to be vice president of the car phone until you earn both. Rule number four, if you think your teacher's tough, wait till you get a boss. Rule number five, flipping burgers is not beneath your dignity. Your grandparents had a different word for burger flipping. They call it opportunity. Rule number six, if you mess up, it's not your parents' fault, so don't whine about your mistakes, learn from them. Rule number seven, before you were born, your parents weren't as boring as they are now. They got that way for paying your bills and cleaning your clothes and listening to you talk about how cool you think you were. So before you save the rainforest from the parasites of your parents' generation, try delousing the closet in your own room. That was one. Rule 8, your school may have done away with winners and losers, but life is not. In some schools, they've abolished failing grades, and they'll give you as many times as you want to get the right answer. That doesn't bear any slightest resemblance, he says, of anything that's real to life. Rule 9, life is not divided into semesters. You don't get summers off, and very few employers are interested in helping you find yourself. You've got to do that on your own time. And rule number 10 is this: television's not real life. In real life, people actually have to leave the coffee shop and go find a job. And rule number 11, this is my favorite, Bill Gates says, be nice to nerds. Chances are you'll end up working for one. Well, let me tell you something about your parents and who they are. Let me just say a word to you, parents. Thank you. Thank you for the investment that you've made in your son and your daughter's life. And I'm going to say something to the graduates. Your parents are tough. I know you're tempted to think nothing happened before 1992, but I won't take it did. They rode in cars without airbags. That little hangy thing down in the arm, that little hangy thing down there, and your grandparents, that was the airbag when they were kids. They rode bikes without helmets. There was no child-proof kids lids on medicine bottles. They didn't have PlayStations and cell phones and personal computers and iPads and internet chat rooms. They had friends, and they went outside. And they found They had Little League tryouts, and not everybody made the team, and they had to learn to deal with disappointment. They fell out of trees and got cut, and they broke bones and chipped teeth, and went into lawsuits. This generation has produced some of the best risk-taking problem solvers and inventors ever assembled in America. This faculty, this school has tried to say to you, they've tried to teach you the Word of God and freedom and failure and success and responsibility. And you think about your parents, they went through that. That's why they wanted you to have the best education. And I don't know about you, but when I read these statistics, it kind of makes me want to run through the home with a pair of scissors. Solomon said, let me give you the cliff notes of life, and here it is. Enjoy life. Don't just endure it. Give Jesus the energy of your youth, not the emptiness of your old age. Then I think the last week would say this. Make obedience an obsession, not an option. Fear God. Keep His commandments. Life is not the destination in itself, it's a road to a destination. Solomon says that one day God's going to take our life and we're going to stand before Him, a holy God. And I think what Solomon was trying to say was, I wish I could go back because I've got some regrets. I think I would have more fear in my life about God. I think I would have more friends. I think I would have more faith. I think I'd have more family. I think I would have said to myself, just enjoy life, don't just endure it. I'm going to give you the energy of my youth, not the emptiness of my old age. Whatever you do, make obedience an obsession, not an option. The last word I want to give to the parents. And then I'll come back and give you yours to the parents. There's one other thing many of you will do in just a few months. You're going to drive your son or daughter to college. When you get there, you're going to help them unpack. You're going to make that ride home. You're going to wonder, did we do enough? Did we study the Bible? Did we give them enough Jesus? Did we? You know what? You're going to be surprised. They're going to call you and say, hey, thank you. One of these days you'll explode and you'll shout to all the kids, why don't you just grow up and act your age? And they will. Or why don't you guys go outside and find something to do without hurting each other? Don't slam the door, and they won't. You'll straighten your bedrooms until it's all neat and tidy and toys displayed on the shelf, hangers in the closet, animals caged, and you'll yell, now I want it to stay that way. And it will. You'll prepare a perfect dinner with a salad that hasn't had all the olives picked out. A cake with no finger traces in the icing, and you'll say, now this is a meal for company. And you'll leave it alone. You'll yell, I want complete privacy while I'm on the phone. No screaming, do you hear me? And no one will answer. No more plastic tablecloth stain. No more dandelion bouquets. No more iron-on patches. No more wet, knotted shoelaces, muddy boots. No more rubber bands for ponytails. Imagine a lipstick with a point. No babysitters for New Year's Eve. Washing clothes only once a week. No PTA meetings or silly school plays where your child's a tree. No carpools and blaring stereos or forgotten lunch money. And I thought it was so nice that you gave the moms a flower. That's the least you could do if you didn't do your science about it. No more Christmas presents made of library paste and toothpicks. No wet oatmeal kisses. No more for Tooth Fairy. No more giggles in the dark, scrape knees to kiss or sticky fingers to clean. Only a voice asking, why don't you grow up? And the silence echoes. I did. Parents, they did. And then I would say to you, graduates, work like you don't need to work. Love like you've never been hurt. Dance like no one's watching. Sing